Everybody, it is Monday, March 8th, 2021. Welcome to the City Council meeting for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great job, everyone.
We really need to get back in session.
I realized I was on mute, but I said most of it. I did, that you heard.
All right. Well, hopefully I'm full of optimism that we will be in council chambers permanently, hopefully by summer, depending on how things go. So we'll see. Next is roll call. Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember James.
Here in Ferndale.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Here in Ferndale.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Here in Ferndale.
Councilmember Polika.
Here in Ferndale.
And Mayor Piana.
Here in Ferndale. Next is the approval of the agenda. And before we start, I've just been notified that our County Commissioner, Charlie Cavell, has shown. So if we could add him to the 5B.
Mayor, I move to accept the agenda as published with one amendment, adding a presentation by our County Commissioner to 5B.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman James and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Yes.
Councilmember Polika.
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Yes.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
Yes. And that concludes the agenda approval. And now we're moving on to electronic meeting procedures. There was some changes in some legislation. So Dan, can you give us an update, please?
Well, there's been, council is limited in having its remote electronic meetings after March 30th. And so it would normally just allow for one additional remote electronic virtual meeting. In discussion with the city manager, council should expect that a proposed resolution declaring a local emergency continuing for another 90 days will be presented at its next council meeting, which would allow for the continuation of electronic remote meetings, consistent with the authority that's set forth in the Open Meetings Act. So that will be coming for council for its consideration at its next meeting on the 22nd.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, next up is presentations. And first on our list is 5A, it's a resolution honoring the public service of Officer Jeffrey Pierce.
Through the chair, I believe we have Captain Dave Spellman to introduce this item this evening. Captain Spellman, are you in attendance?
Joe, it looks like he may be having an issue. He was with us for the previous session, but I don't see him now. I would recommend moving this. Oh, hang on, there he is. Captain?
Yes.
You're up.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected there for a second, so.
Welcome, Captain.
That's okay, Captain. We are in the midst of introducing the police department's acknowledgement of the service of Officer Pierce.
Oh, okay. Today is Jeff Pierce's last day on the job. We celebrated it with a brief ceremony. He's given 30 years of service to the Ferndale community. He's one of our hometown heroes. He grew up in Hazel Park. He graduated a Viking. He went on to graduate from Central Michigan University and served as a United States Marine Corps captain. Jeff has had a tremendous career. He's a tremendous family man. And he really has stood out as one of the best patrolmen we've ever had. He's won the Police Officer of the Year twice. And we're going to miss him very much. Right now he's celebrating that retirement with his family and his friends. and we wish him the best.
Wonderful. Thank you, Captain, and thank you for your years of service, Officer Pierce.
Yes, thank you so much. We're gonna miss you. All right, next we're moving on to 5B, and welcome to the room is County Commissioner Cavell. Come on down. Is he having trouble
He's
getting
here.
in?
He disappeared for a moment. Let me see if I can find him. Hi, Charlie. Sorry about that. We're at your presentation.
Great, no problem. Yeah, right. Wouldn't it be nice when we don't have to do, well, it'll be kind of a bummer too when we don't have these great kind of like outs for, oh, sorry, my camera's not on because it's not working, not because I'm, you know, cooking dinner while talking to you all. We'll have to actually show up to stuff and pay attention. So hi, everybody. I'm our County Commissioner, Charlie Cavell. I want to give 3 quick updates to everybody here. So first, I'll give a funnel of where we've been to where we are related to COVID, because Oakland County is steering a lot of the ship as it relates to the COVID vaccine rollout. Second, I want to talk about what's new or what's happened in the last few days that should be on your radar to be aware of. And then 3, I want to just make sure you have all the info you need so that you can be best prepared for how to be safe during COVID and before you get your vaccine or while waiting for your second dose. So first, the funnel. In Michigan, there have been 3 million doses received. In Oakland County, there have been 335,000 doses received. Those have been administered by the hospital systems, Rite Aid, CVS, Myers, and OakGov. OakGov has received 89,000 vaccines to date, not including this week's receiving 10,460 doses of the 2-shot vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, and 7,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson single-shot vaccine. So that means all in, we've received this week 17,860 doses from OakGov. Now this is good because when things started back in December, we were receiving just under 2,000 doses a week. Then it went up to about 7,000. Then we kind of went to 18,000 one week, then back down to 7,000. So this week being at 18,000 again, this is good. This is our kind of new normal of getting for Oakland County government over 15,000 doses. So what's new? First, thinking about social vulnerability, there's an index that the CDC has recommended the state and the county start using, and this was maybe a couple months ago at the turn of the year that the county and the state started thinking proactively about this. So you're now starting to see as we move into the next groups of people that'll be vaccinated, it'll be coming up next week, 50 and up with health conditions. So then that's taking into account social vulnerability. Whereas before that wouldn't have been as much of an immediate concern. And now also what we're doing is thinking about the county will be adding to the Save Your Spot website. They'll be adding a disability box to be able to click a box to indicate if you have a intellectual, physical disability so that you can be changed in your spot in line. And the last thing about social vulnerability and what's new is that just this week we'll be beginning homebound vaccines. So if anyone who's paying attention to this here is homebound, this is supposed to be very akin to what you might have received in 2019 with the flu vaccine rollout in coordination with the county health department and AAA1B. And I have a phone number for that that I can share after giving just general info about COVID communications. So if you, now going to part 3, if you want to learn more about how you can get your vaccine, get in line, get answers to questions, again, as it relates to Oakland County government, not necessarily Beaumont or St. Joe's or Ascension or McLaren or Henry Ford, but for Oakland County government to get in line with us, call 800-848, 5533. So again, that's 800-848-5533. Go online to register for Save Your Spot at oaklandcountyvaccine.com, or to get text updates, text OakGovCovid to 468-311, or call me at our cell phone, which is 248-807-4347. And if you want homebound vaccine information, do any of those things. And then also, if you'd like to talk to someone who's running that program, call 810-331-0902. And I can send all this to the clerk to be passed along in the minutes if you like. And if there's anything else you guys would like me to talk about, happy to do that as well.
Thanks, Charlie. Just appreciate the update.
Appreciate y'all. Bye.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on the agenda, and we're moving to call to audience. So we set aside 30 minutes for people to speak on any topic, including any item on the agenda. If more than 30 minutes are required, I can choose to extend the period of or continue public comment at the conclusion of the regular agenda. And I will gently interrupt you to let you know when you've reached your limit of 3 minutes, so you may wrap up. And Ferndale has a vision dedicated to inclusivity, and we respect and value diversity, and we have an official commitment to racism. Respectful and courteous behavior during public meetings support these values, allowing neighbors across all spectrums of beliefs and viewpoints to share their thoughts, and a supported environment is what we support and welcome here. Remember that some audience members or speakers may be attending for their first public meeting and may feel uncomfortable publicly speaking, and their voices deserve to be heard. Zoom adds a layer of complexity for those new to making public comments on the internet. So with that in mind, for a productive conversation, please address your comments on the issues and not people, and please address City Council and myself, the mayor, rather than staff. They take policy and direction from the City Council. Sorry, I meant anti-racism and not a commitment to racism. Thank you for catching that. That was not my intention. So with that, I'm going to open up the call to audience, and our Assistant City Manager will take the blue hand raisers and pop it up on the screen here of how to do that, and those calling in on the phone.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, we have Mike Flores.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Good evening. Buenas noches and good evening. My name is Augusto Mike Flores on Whittington Street. First of all, Feliz Dia de la Mujer. Second, if we do continue with the virtual meetings, please know that today's agenda did not include the Zoom link on the 7 p.m. agenda, and on the 6 p.m. agenda, it didn't include the password. So when I clicked on it, it required that Ferndale password, and it wasn't on the agenda, so just for future reference. Third, regarding item 8D, was the recording from the September 2020 retreat ever published? I have searched our YouTube channel and was not able to find it. Please advise if a FOIA should be completed to have access to this recording. I also reviewed the strategic plan dashboard, and I had difficulty understanding it slightly. If council or city manager could explain the color, visual management, and the correlation between the progress percentages and the status percentages. And I can give an example related to the healthy community and adopt the pathway to parks, since we're speaking about parks later during public hearing. Fourth, regarding item 8H and the land swap with the Ferndale Public Schools, are the details going to be shared, and will this be available? There was no additional detail in terms of the terms and conditions outlined on the agenda. As always, I look forward to your responses and your guidance this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Next, we have Jeff Schroeder.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. My name is Jeffrey Schroeder. I represent Nature's Remedy of Ferndale. I am participating to discuss the very last item on your agenda this evening, which is item 9B, with respect to the marijuana report. Nature's Remedy of Ferndale is located at 925 East Drayton. It is one of the 2 new medical marijuana provisioning centers in the city. First, on behalf of Nature's Remedy, just want to thank the staff who have worked very closely with us to make sure that we are redeveloping an obsolete structure into, a magnificent new building. Nature's Remedy has invested nearly $3 million between the land and the renovation at this site. And also thank you for your extension of our conditional permit in February, which is bringing us into May. Our projected opening date is April 15th of this year. And so hopefully everyone can get their tax refund and come try out Nature's Remedy. But the reason I'm calling is, number one, to point out in the report that you received, you will see that there have been no issues with respect to safety, security, traffic, or code enforcement, and that things have been moving very well. We have sent correspondence previously requesting that the council and the city administration move forward with allowing an adult use, a retailer at this location. And the reason we're doing that is because the market has changed significantly in the last year since we even were awarded our medical license. The medical licenses are on the way out, and even the state regulators are trying to unify the license into one sort of adult use type license. I represent over 100 marijuana operators throughout the state of Michigan, and many of them are not even renewing their medical license. They're going to move forward with just an adult use license and give a discount to those that bring their medical card in due to the extra cost and different hassles of just having two licenses, plus the recreational adult use license is the market's moving very quickly in that direction. So I just want to make sure that this huge investment in the city is going to pay dividends for both the operator and the city. And so I'm requesting that the city take a close look at helping us move forward with an adult use approval here. It's critical. It's going to be extremely hard to compete, surrounded by Hazel Park, Ferndale, and others in the area that will have the adult use approvals. So I have sent correspondence. I will be on the meeting during item 9B if there are further questions about this. And I just want to thank the city for being a great partner and working very closely with us, and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
And Mayor, next is Tamika H.
Hi, Tamika H.
Can you all hear me?
I can. Welcome.
Thank you. How's everyone this evening?
We're good. It was a nice day.
Yes, it was. I'm one of those people that this is gonna be my first time publicly speaking.
That's fine. We're here to embrace you and hear what you have to say. So you'll be great.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Tamika H. I'm a member of the IDEA Task Force for Ferndale, as well as a participant in one of Ferndale's Housing Commission programs. There are a couple of things that I believe should be looked at and implemented for change a lot sooner than later. First, home ownership. Implement change for Section 8 voucher recipients to utilize their vouchers towards obtaining a home, which can allow for better and safer housing options. 2, transitional housing, allowing voucher recipients to utilize their vouchers for temporary housing in between moves, such as short stays, hotels, and etc., until they're able to obtain safe and suitable housing for themselves and their families to prevent homelessness. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tamika. And you did great.
Oh, thank you. It sounds like my voice is shaky.
No, you did great. Can't tell a thing that you're shaky.
Thank you. Mayor, next we have Lance Wooldry.
Good evening, Lance. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Like Jeff Schroeder, I'm here to speak on agenda item 9B, and I will be present for any questions at that point as well. I'm from the Dykema Law Firm and represent Pure Green, which has the permitted facility at 642 East 9 Mile and is preparing to open as a medical marijuana provisioning center. As Mr. Schroeder indicated, the medical market is shifting and shifting dramatically. Andrew Brisboe, the director of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, testified just last week to the state Senate that they are starting to see now growers with multiple licenses shifting into the adult use market and the non-renewal of medical licenses. So we're going to reach a point here where really only the adult use market is left, and that's understandable. You've got 245,000 patients in the state of Michigan, which is down 20% over the last 2 years, but about 7 million eligible adult use consumers. And you can see that we've seen a shift in sales as well. Medical is now only 40% of the market. Medical sales are down about 20% over the last 7 months, and that's even with far more provisioning centers than adult use retailers operating. So it'd certainly be our hope that the city can move forward to adult use as soon as possible. Obviously, the concern here is we hire people, bring them on, and are not able to make this facility work. And that's a real concern absent adult use. And if adult use isn't there, pretty much close to the outset, I think you can safely assume that customers who come in and are turned away are probably customers who are never going to come back if it's added later. With that, I'll be available to speak on 9B as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, next is Kay Curly and Chic.
Hi, Kate Curly and Chic.
Hello.
Don't think that's your first name, but welcome.
Thank you. So I am also addressing item 9B, and I want to say thank you for taking the time to discuss the important issue of cannabis licensing in Ferndale. My name is Katie Kurlianchik, and I'm a resident. I run a small business online that aims to destigmatize cannabis use, especially for women. I'm also an MMJ caregiver, and I'm hoping to take the next step to combine these two arms into one cannabis micro business. Ferndale has definitely cemented itself as a local leader in this industry. However, our city is built on small businesses and our tight-knit community, and I don't see that reflected in the current cannabis offerings. So with that idea of strengthening our small businesses, I think that it's important to allow a set amount of micro businesses to operate within our city borders. Thanks to the lower cost of entry, a micro business license would allow local entrepreneurs like myself to enter this market, the adult use cannabis market, and retain Ferndale's reputation as a community built on unique, locally owned small businesses. I just want to say Happy International Women's Day. I think it's very symbolic that this is happening today because as a woman, I think that the cannabis industry is definitely a male-driven industry, and we'd want to see more diversity, not only in our city, but in this industry as well. I am committed to this business, and I would love to have the opportunity to open it in the same community that I call home. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor, next we have Alan Hale.
Hi, Alan. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, I'm Alan Hale, resident at 1903 Woodward Heights. I also am the chairman of the Ferndale Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission. I just wanted to chime in support of 7A and 7B for our Mdnr grants that are going to be discussed tonight. Accessibility in our parks, I think, is more important than ever. I know Personally, with my family, the parks through COVID have been one of the few things keeping us sane and healthy. And I'd like to see our continued support for the parks. On that note too, I'd also like to voice some disappointment earlier. I know when COVID happened and the city readjusted budget, I think our parks have always been one of those things that ends up falling last on the list. So I know there were a lot of exciting improvements planned for Martin Road Park, and they've been scaled back over the last couple of years. And I'd just like to see some things come to fruition, especially in terms of accessibility and the continuity of our parks. On a personal note, accessibility aside, I also, as a neighbor of Urban Rest Brewing Company, I did want to also voice support for 9A. I think Urban Rest has proven itself to be a great neighbor in the northeast corner of Ferndale. So I just wanted to also lend them support. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Mayor, we have one call in. So area code 248, last for 9209. If you wanted to speak, please go ahead.
(929), you're on the air. All right.
And that is everybody who has indicated they'd like to speak, Mayor.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We always appreciate your comments, and we take them to heart. Moving on to public hearings. We have 2 public hearings tonight. They're back-to-back on our parks. And just to walk you through how the public hearings work, we have 4 steps. First, there's a staff presentation. After the staff presentation, I will open it up for public comment. After public comment, I'll open it up to questions for council, and then we'll move in to debate with a motion. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Lorena, our Parks and Rec Director, to talk about this public hearing. And before she begins, I just wanted to say this is like the 4th time this issue has come back to us. This is a redesign or a scale back of the original grants from March 2020. I'm sure you're going to go in all of that, but I just wanted to set you up for success.
Thank you. So actually this is for our Mdnr recreation grants for 1 new project and 1 project that was scaled back, which is for Martin Road that I'll talk about later. So right now I'm going to talk about the Mdnr grants for Wilson Park. This is grant season. Every year around this time, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, also known as Ndnr, makes 3 different grants available. One is a passport grant, another is a trust fund grant, and the third is a land and water conservation fund grant. And the difference is pretty much, they're all pretty much the same, except for the passport grant, you can make recreational improvements or have projects that are inside or outside, whereas the trust fund and land and water grants are all for outdoor recreational improvements or projects only. So we, for Wilson Park, we are definitely planning to apply for the trust fund grant, and we are also looking to apply for the land and water grant. Now, with applying for 2 grants, you still only get 1 award. So it just increases our chances of getting awarded a grant by applying for 2 different pots of money. We did work with the community back in 2018 with regards to Wilson Park. We had a design meeting, and we really got a good pulse check at that time of what the community wanted in Wilson Park. So that really helped drive us to where we are today. We plan to continue to engage the community as we solidify a plan as we move forward, especially if we are awarded the grant. There we go. So the whole objective of one of the main objectives of applying for this grant is, again, which is council's priority, making our parks more accessible. And so with that, the project scope for this grant application will be putting in a walking path into Wilson Park, which is approximately 10,000 square feet. We also want to update the play area. One of the things that we heard loud and clear from the community was there is no shade in the park, especially when they're in the play area with their children. So we want to include some sort of shade structure to make it more comfortable, in addition to additional landscaping, which will include trees and native plantings, utilities, parking lot upgrades, which could actually include additional 9 parking spots, and then general amenities such as drinking fountains, ADA accessible benches, which will have companion seating, picnic tables, and then our normal trash and recycling bins. So when you look at Ndnr grants, it's a little different with the timelines when you think of other grants. It's a much longer process. So we would apply for the grant by April 1st when we submit our applications. And then in September, Mdnr will actually provide comments or our initial scoring, where we'll have the opportunity to make adjustments to our grant application, minor adjustments, not huge scope changes, but we can make some scope changes. But it also gives us a chance to increase our scores. So with the Mdnr grants, it's all point-based or score-based. So whoever has the most points basically gets the grants, and then they go down the list until they run out of funding. So this will be an opportunity for us to see their comments and try to make adjustments to get additional points. And then we are notified December, typically in December, no later than January, whether or not we are awarded a grant. If, or should I say when we're successful, we're going to be very optimistic. We would then get a grant agreement in July that we would have to execute, which is when we can actually start the project, which would be July 2022. And so from that point, we'll do a lot more planning, formalize our documents and prepare bid documents, and with the hopes of starting our project in March 2023. And so the project will run from spring through summer. So we're looking to cross over 2 fiscal years, which would be fiscal year ending in 2023 and 2024. So again, we apply today, but we won't be expending any city funds until fiscal year ending in 23 and 24. So as it relates to the actual budget for the trust fund grant and the land and water grant, we plan on matching those grants 50%. With that, we get more points, which will make us, more points, more chance to be awarded a grant. So the total project, we're estimating at $282,000. So with the grant, we would get $141,000 paid through the grant, with our city match being 50%, which is $141,000. This is a reimbursable grant, so the city would put the funds up front, and then when we, as we complete the project, we're able to submit for our reimbursements, and at the end, we can submit for reimbursement as well from the state of Michigan. Although in addition to the city match with funding, we are also planning to match with in-kind services from DPW and PRD labor if we have any volunteers, or purchase our own materials or utilize our own materials. We can use that as a match as well, and that'll potentially lessen the impact to the general fund. So in addition, one of the things that we're asking for council today is to approve a resolution to support the financial commitment of $141,000 for the Mdnr grants. This is required by the grant to have this resolution. Once we are actually awarded the funds and we get a grant agreement to execute the project, council, PNRD will then come back before council to get a resolution to confirm that those funds have been allocated to the project. So this is just a resolution more so to say we are supporting the financial commitment for this application, and then when we get the grant, it will be another resolution committing the funds. And so if I'll open it up to council if there are any questions, or if it's we can go from there.
If I may, through the chair.
Actually, I need to open up the public hearing after the presentation of staff. And now I'm going to open it for a public comment. And just like the public or call to audience, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And would love to hear what you have to say about this grant opportunity. Kyle, will you walk through
Yes.
any hand raisers for this public hearing?
Folks are able to raise their hands if they'd like to speak. Mike, go ahead.
Good evening again. Mike Flores on Whittington Street. I just want to say, as it relates to Wilson Park, in 2003, when I graduated university, I bought my first house in Ferndale at 480 University Street, right across from Wilson Park. And I have to say that one of the reasons that I bought that house was, one, because it was a beautiful home, the only home I could afford at that time, and also just the beautiful park. It played a vital part in the development of how I understood a neighborhood to be in the Midwest, a neighborhood to be in Ferndale, and to see it evolve over the years as my time has expired here at Ferndale, as I've moved through the quadrants, and to see that park evolve, it's just feels good. And obviously, support this, and I just have very, very fond memories of that park, just because that's where I started as a homeowner many, many years ago. So full support of this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor, we do have the call-in 9209 last 4. If you wanted to speak on parks, go ahead. And those are all the hand raisers or call-ins, Mayor.
Okay. So with that, seeing no other public comment, we're going to open up to questions for council. So Mayor Pro Tem, entertain your question, please.
All right, so I just wanted to ask Lorena, what is the likelihood of the reimbursement from the state for this effort?
I'm sorry, you said the likelihood of the reimbursement from the state? Well, if we are awarded the grant, then we sign the grant agreement. As long as we're working within the scope that was approved by Mdnr for our project, then the likelihood is 100%. As long as we meet our timelines and the scope. So if we start work before we sign the agreement or it's executed, that work wouldn't qualify for this grant. So that's why we won't start the eligible work until after we receive the grant agreement next year.
Through the chair, I have a kind of a similar question. I know that right now we're only addressing the Wilson Park grant application, but sort of putting it in the greater context, since we have 2. I'm just curious, Lorena, in your professional opinion, I know that nothing's guaranteed when we apply for these things, but do you have a sense of the likelihood of being approved for one more than the other, or might we get both? Do you have a feel for that?
I don't. So when we get to Martin Road, well, I should say for Martin Road, we're applying for the passport grant, which we're not applying for Wilson Park. And then we're also applying for the trust fund. So I shouldn't say I don't, because when you apply for these grants, they ask you if you're applying for multiple projects, and if so, what's the priority? So for instance, for the trust fund grant, is Martin Road or Wilson Park more of the priority? So if we were only awarded one, then they would know which one to get to award us.
And which one have we marked as our higher priority?
For the trust fund grant, it would be Wilson Park.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, seeing no other questions from council at this time, we need to entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve a resolution of support and financial commitment in an amount not to exceed $141,000 for a series of grants offered by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources with conditional grant funds to be directed toward accessibility and amenity improvements at Wilson Park, if awarded, as submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director.
Support.
Moved by James, and it was a tie, but I'm going to go with supported by Polika. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
Yes. All right, now we're moving on to 7B, which is the Mdnr grant application for Martin Road Park.
All right, so I don't want to bore you, so ditto everything I just said. But in a nutshell, we plan on applying for a second project for the Mdnr grants, but which is at Martin Road Park. But for this project, we only plan on applying for the passport grant, which I mentioned is the difference between passport and the trust fund is indoor and outdoor, where trust fund is only outdoor recreation. So we're only applying for those two grants and not the land and water grant for Martin Road Park. We are still intending on installing the splash pad at Martin Road Park. So this will just assist with the costs that we've already, like a phase 2 for that project, to lessen the impact on the park bond and the general fund. So for Martin Road Park, for this project, again, we want to make the splash pad in the park more accessible, as well as the amenities we plan to put in. So with that, our plan is to put in a walking path that's approximately 1,100 square feet. And that path will be directly from the parking lot and connecting to the existing path at Martin Road Park on the east side. So currently there's just gravel and grass from the parking lot to get to the path. So this will definitely make that park more accessible. This is one of the items that was brought up in our park board meeting to make sure that we looked at, and so we're definitely looking at that. In addition, the paths will connect the new amenities we plan to put into the park under this project to the existing path. So those additional amenities include a pavilion, additional landscaping, utilities, a basketball court, and other amenities such as drinking fountain, benches, tables, trash, and recycling bin. This is a smaller project compared to the Wilson Park project. And again, the timeline is the same, but the budget estimates for the Martin Road project, for the Recreation Passport Grant, there's only a 25% match requirement. You don't get more points if you put 50% or more money, so we won't commit that. So we only plan on committing 25%. So that'd be $34,000. That'd be impact to the general fund or the park bond. We plan on utilizing the park bond first if there's additional funding left over from what's already been allocated for Martin Road and future projects. And then the remaining amount of $101,000 will be reimbursed from Mdnr to the city and covered by the grant. And then the trust fund, again, is 50%. So we're looking at a $68,000 from the city and $68,000 from Mdnr. And again, like I mentioned earlier, in-kind services can also be counted as a city match and lessen the impact to the general fund. And the project timeline is exactly the same. So we'll submit our application by April 1st, and we're looking to start construction in March 2023. And then again, same suggested action, which is for council to approve the resolution to support the financial commitment of $68,000, which is our match amount.
Okay. Thank you for that overview. Are there any questions? Sorry, I need to now open for public comment. Like the last grant, open this up for public comment. Kyle.
Yes, Mayor. We have Mike.
Yeah, good evening again, Mike Flores. Just a quick note on Martin Park. I consider Martin Road Park to be very unique just because it doesn't only support the Ferndale community, it actually supports Hazel Park. My partner and I are investors on several properties just east of Pilgrim in Hazel Park. And when we have potential tenants, they always identify how close they are to Martin Park as one of the key benefits of our properties just east of Pilgrim. So again, I think any improvements to that park would not only benefit the Ferndale community, but also benefit our regional partner, Hazel Park, as well. Those are my comments for this evening.
And Mayor, we have
Thank you.
2 call-ins right now. A new one, which is last for 5121586 area code. If you'd like to speak, go ahead. And then also 9209. If you'd like to speak, go ahead. And that's everyone, Mayor.
Okay. I am now going to close public comment on the public hearing and open it up to council for questions on this particular grant application for this park.
I just have one question through the chair, if I may. I think you mentioned something about the impact to the general fund being of lower impact with in-kind services. Can you kind of touch on what that would mean for the park upgrades?
Yes, so that would mean basically any work. So if our match is $68,000 for Martin Road, and DPW is able to do the landscaping or some other type of work where we don't have to, contract it out, we can count the hours that DPW works or the materials that they use as part of our match. So say that their labor equaled $5,000, then we wouldn't have to match $68,000 cash from our fund, our general fund. We would only have to match $63,000.
All right. So no further questions from council. We need a motion.
I move that we approve a resolution of support and financial commitment in an amount not to exceed $68,000 for a series of grants offered by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources with conditional grant funds to be directed toward accessibility and amenity improvements at Martin Road Park if awarded, and as submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks-May, and I heard, I think, support by Mikulski first. So we'll go with that. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Malka?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes. Oh, did I not unmute on time? I'm sorry. Yes.
Marty? Something happened to our Madam Clerk?
I scared her away.
She is showing as still here, but obviously
No,
there's
I
some
can see
kind
that
of
her
issue.
audio, it showed that she was reconnecting with her audio, so she had some audio issue on her end. But I think now she's muted, so she'd need to unmute herself.
Hello, I'm back. Yes, I have WOW in Ferndale.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. So I had got Councilmember Polika's response of a yes, and then I called Councilmember James and did not hear the answer.
I said yes after you got kicked off, I think.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Leachme?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. Thank you, Lorena, for all your hard work. Writing 2 grants at the same time is a lot of work, and I always appreciate you and your team going after additional dollars to offset our investment in our parks. So thank you. And roll the dice, and hopefully we'll get them.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, next we're moving on to the consent agenda. And before I read everything and council makes a decision, I am going to recommend that we do table 8H, which is the approval of the land exchange agreement between the City of Ferndale and Ferndale Public School District as submitted by City Manager. Apparently the Granicus software, we can see it, but the public cannot. So there is a software glitch, and everybody else should know that council did get this agreement earlier in the week emailed to us. So we have seen it. It just wasn't showing up on for the public, and so we need to figure that out. And so I'm still going to read the item, but council would need to put that in their motion as part of the consent agenda to table it for March 22nd. All right, so here we go. 8A, approval of minutes of regular meeting held February 22nd, 2021, as submitted by City Clerk. 8B, adoption of a resolution of support for confronting and combating anti-Semitism in our communities as part of Mayors United Against Anti-Semitism, as submitted by Mayor Piana. 8C, adoption of resolution proclaiming March 31st annually as the International Transgender Day of Visibility in the City of Ferndale, as submitted by City Clerk. 8D, approval to accept the third quarter strategic plan progress report as presented by City Manager. 8E, approval of the easement agreement between the City of Ferndale and the owner of 946 Pinecrest as presented by the CED Director. 8F, approval of purchase agreement for public streetlight improvements between DTE and the City of Ferndale. 8G, approval of the request to appoint Michael Mitchell to the position of magistrate in the 43rd District Court Madison Heights Division to fill the vacancy created by the upcoming retirement of its current magistrate as submitted by City Clerk. 8H, approval of the land exchange agreement between the City of Ferndale and Ferndale Public School District as submitted by City Manager. 8I, approval of tuition coverage for Fire Marshal Barr to attend Eastern Michigan University Fire Staff and Command Program for year 2021, charged to training in the amount of $3,250 and account number of 101-336-873 as submitted by the Fire Chief. 8J, approval of the agreement with TPC Technologies to provide necessary equipment for a drive-in movie event in the amount of $2,451 to be charged to the contractual services account 101-805-818.141 and authorized for the Parks and Recreation Director to sign and execute the contract upon approval by the City Attorney. 8K, approval of the annual Smart Specialized Services third-party contract for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $18,678 to be credited to revenue account 288-000-681.001 and authorization for the mayor or city manager to sign the agreement as submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director. 8L, approval of the city attorney recommendation to cancel the public hearing regarding the non-renewal of Class C liquor license scheduled for March 22nd, 2021, and to reschedule the public hearing for June 14th, 2021, if necessary, with legal notices due to the statewide extension of liquor license year to July 30, 2021, consistent with the Michigan Liquor License Control Commission's Administrative Order 2021-04 as submitted by the Deputy City Clerk. 8M, approval of the 3-year planned equipment maintenance for all municipal generators by Cummins for $11,586.43, with expense $6,663.51 charged to the general fund facilities maintenance contractual services account number 101-265-818-000 and expense $4,922.91 charged to water sewer fund contractual services 590-592-000-818-000 as submitted by DPW facilities manager. 8N, approval to renew annual software agreement with ESRI GIS services in the amount of $4,400 paid from account number 592-000-818 as submitted by GIS technician. 8O, approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the city manager's office and subject to review by the council finance committee. All right.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented with the exception of 8H, which will be removed to add the attachment and be presented at the March 22nd council meeting.
Support.
I think that was Councilwoman Mikulski who supported the motion by Polika. Are there any comments or from council on the consent agenda at this time? All right, hearing none, I just wanted to say that the International Transgender Day, that this is the second Transgender Day of Visibility. This is, I think, the 3rd year that we've done this. And I am really happy that council continues this tradition of proclaiming that March 31st. And I just wanted to say for 8B that our residents in Ferndale reached out to me to inform me about the increase in unfortunate rise of hate crimes against those who practice the Jewish faith. And so I'm really thankful for council to reinforcing our values of an opening and welcoming city and anti-racism, as well as against hate against for people of the Jewish faith. So with that in mind, I think we are set. Madam Clerk.
Through the chair, I think Marnie's microphone is.
I'm back.
There you go.
I did just want to make a note that during the reading of the consent agenda, the rec department let us know that the account number on item 8J should be to 101-805-818.130. And
I will support that amendment.
Good with that? Okay.
Thank you for the clarification, Parks and Rec team.
Okay, and to call the roll, Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. So that concludes the consent agenda. Now moving on to the regular agenda items is 9A, consideration of the MLCC local government approval form by Urban Rest Brewing Company. And who is introducing that today?
Through the chair, I believe Jordan Torrey, the Director of Community and Economic Development, will introduce that item.
Welcome, Jordan.
One moment while I set him up, Mayor.
He's being promoted right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle, for the panelist powers. Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. This is a fairly routine item, but it's of significance because it is the first business that has been able to take advantage of the opportunity presented by the elimination of the payment in lieu of parking provision. Urban Rest Brewing, been in business in Ferndale for over 2 years. Zach Typinski of the husband and wife duo that owns the business is on with us to give details about the proposal, so I won't steal any of his thunder, but it's an exciting thing whenever you can see a Ferndale business expand, and so that's what this represents. Urban Rest would be bringing another tap room, some other features that I'll let Zach talk about that are really exciting to our downtown and add to the great mix of businesses that we have already there. And this form essentially, as part of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission process, is just essentially, it's an opportunity for a community to weigh in and say, we either approve of this or we don't, and here are our reasons why. Urban Rest is actually using what is called a manufacturer off-premise tasting room license. So it's not like a Class C liquor license where, you know, you'd have to purchase that from the outside and bring it in. This isn't even like a tavern license for beer and wine. This is something that is specific to a company like Urban Rest that makes their products and sells them in the facility where they produce. So with that, we do have Zach on the line who can speak and provide some other details on the proposal. I always like to let the businesses kind of celebrate the things that they're bringing, but that's what we'd be seeing at 210 West 9 Mile if this is approved.
All right, thank you. Are you bringing Zach in?
Zach is actually called in as a member of the public. I'm not sure if he's the 586 number. I'm not sure if
Can you guys hear me here?
Yes, welcome, Zach.
Hello, can you see me as well, or?
I see Urban Rest. That's about, I see the words, but not the face.
Okay, well, at least you can hear me, that's all. So yes, we are seeking to expand, my wife and I, into a downtown space, looking to dig deeper rather than wider into the Ferndale community. And Jordan, I appreciate the great introduction. This is actually going to be our 4th year, though, so I really want to just step up and champion for that. But yeah, we're very excited to invigorate, you know, a downtown space that hasn't been utilized since I believe March 2020, and kind of just bring our family-friendly approach to the downtown space as well, with a little bit of a twist on a new concept.
Thank you. I will open it up for questions from council. And you and Jordan and Zach, you guys can volley on the answers here. Councilman Polika, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have a question for Jordan. Can you compare this license to an existing business in Ferndale?
Yes, the closest, and Dan Christ, our city attorney, please keep me honest if this example is poor, but as I understand them, the closest example would be like Valentine. They are a distiller, they make their product. They now, obviously, they expanded since. They have their facility at 965 Wanda, but originally when they started out, they sold their drinks in the same facility where they produced them. So that would be the closest example to what is being done here. But obviously, this one does not involve liquor. This is just Urban Rest is beer, kombucha, and Zach, forgive me if I missed any of the other products that you produce.
Okay, it's not like Schramm's Meadery. Don't they do the same thing?
That's comparable as well. Yes.
Okay.
So they would be the other business in town that is very similar.
Okay. I wanted to get something that was, you know, close to the downtown, and Schramm's was what I thought would closest resembled what this would be. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions from council at this time? If not, we would need a motion to move forward and go into debate or discussion.
I move to approve the MLCC local government approval form by Urban Rest Brewing Company is submitted by the Community and Economic Development Director.
Support. Moved by Polika, supported by Mikulski. Are any comments from council at this time or questions for Zach? All right, seeing none, Zach, I think we're just happy to see you expand and be successful in Urban Rest, and welcome to our downtown.
We appreciate that very much.
I look forward to your opening.
Thank you. Honestly, your support, if I can just say, you know, for 1 second, you know, the support of all you guys is the reason that we're, you know, doubling down within this community. And my wife and I live within this community. We operate one business now and looking to, you know, expand on that and reach a little bit of a different clientele. And, you know, we just appreciate the community that all of you have cultivated, and just want to say thank you. And we're excited to move forward into an awesome historical space within the district.
Thank you. I think I saw you. I walked by there the other day and I saw people in the space, and I was like, what's going on in there?
Yeah,
so...
we're taping up markings on the wall, you know, but yeah, we're keeping it pretty low key, and we're going to try and build it out as efficiently as we can. We've been working with the permitting departments and things like that to get the ball rolling on that, and so we're very excited.
Well, good luck on your remodel, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Madam Clerk to do roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks Bay?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
And that's yes. Go forth and be successful, Zach. All right. Next is 9B, consideration of the 2021 marijuana report in accordance with the ordinance requirement of section 24-165C. And welcome to the stage, Justin Lyons, our planning manager and marijuana expert.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I didn't know that was going to be part of my title when I started with the city, but I've learned a lot. Appreciate the other staff that have helped educate me as well. So as the mayor stated, in the city zoning ordinance, section 24165, it's required that a report and recommendation go to city council regarding the types and limits of marijuana facilities allowed under section 24165A2 within 6 months after the opening and operation of a marijuana facility and or provisioning center. This report also includes details regarding the existing facilities and an update regarding a new application that we received for a safety compliance facility. So I will share my screen and get rolling. All right, can you see my screen now? Great. So we'll get right into it. Just want to talk through recently what's been going on with marijuana in the city of Ferndale through the licensing process, an update on specific uses, upcoming facilities, what's been going on in the state and adjacent communities as well, and then a few potential next steps. So. Most recently, so a little over a year ago, the first marijuana report was presented to City Council. At that point, we were also in the middle of a potential process to get the marijuana retailer application period open. That ended in March 1st, and then based on a recommendation from the city manager's designee, which was myself, on April 27th of last year, City Council approved 3 retailer applications and also amended ordinances to increase the number of medical marijuana provisioning centers from 3 to 5. So that was really the city's first experience with what's called adult use recreational marijuana, which was approved by the voters a couple of years ago. Earlier this year, so I guess before I skip over that, 3 of those retailers that have been in our operation basically since May of 2020. And then the 2 additional medical marijuana provisioning centers have been under construction and just recently received a extension from City Council to get their certificates of occupancy. It's kind of exciting. In January, the city also received a marijuana safety compliance facility application. So the city's ordinance does permit 1 safety compliance facility, which essentially is a testing lab. That application was for a 2321 Wolcott, and they were given preliminary approval, and they're going through the state and city processes to get their official license. And as I said, City Council just recently approved 3-month extensions for the 2 provisioning centers at 642 East 9 Mile and 925 East Drayton that are under construction right now. So the current marijuana report, I will admit, is not a super long report because in working with community and economic development staff, building, fire, police departments, since those first 3 marijuana retailer permittees began state license operation, there really have not been any observed issues related to safety, security, or code enforcement. There were a total of 164 total calls to the police department, but no license compliancy issues, no real enforcements. There really weren't any concerns from the police department on that front. The facilities have obviously, just like other businesses, been operating under the pandemic since last spring, and so those facilities were given permission from the state of Michigan to operate with drive-through service. And so if you've seen that sort of setup that at the different facilities around town, that's sort of where that came to be. The 3 retailers who also operated as provisioning centers under the Medical Marijuana Act and licensing, they are required to provide annual financial statement information, and so those reports were just given. I did have to follow up with on the applicants, so the presentation I included in the agenda was not updated, but I did get the final information today with all of the various revenue information and total number of employees. So I'll leave that there, as I'm not the financial expert on those types of businesses, but that's the information that we have. So you've probably heard a number of different types of uses being talked about with marijuana. Our ordinance does define each marijuana use that's permitted by the state, but only a few of those uses are actually permitted in the city. This has kind of changed over the years, but essentially what we have in the city of Ferndale for licensed marijuana provisioning centers, there are 5, as I mentioned. 3 of them have been open since September 2019. 2 of them are under construction. 3 marijuana retailers have been open since May or June of 2020. Those are 3 facilities that have sort of dual licenses to operate as a medical marijuana provisioning center and a marijuana retailer. So those are basically retail operations where people can have a state-issued medical marijuana card and buy products, and then also just be, I think, at ages 21 years of old or older, and have a license and purchase at those facilities. As I mentioned, the first testing lab safety compliance facility is, they were given preliminary approval last month, and they're working towards a certificate of occupancy on Wolcott Street. And then we do have one legacy medical marijuana caregiver facility that was part of the original 5, I guess you could call it, that received special land use permits way back in November 2017. And so they are still operating under the state's caregiver laws that have a limited number of patients, and they're allowed to have a limited number of caregivers in that facility on East 8 Mile. The 2 provisioning centers that are in process that recently just did get the extensions from City Council, they are both, I believe, required to be open or have a certificate of occupancy before May. Both of them have made great progress in a short amount of time in the middle of a pandemic, but 642 East 9 Mile levels, they've recently updated the facade there. Nearing completion, should have a certificate of occupancy within weeks. And then 925 East Drayton, Nature's Remedy, they built an entirely new building. and they are expected to meet their deadline as well. These applicants, their representation did speak earlier this evening during public comment. They both requested City Council consider granting them marijuana retailer permits as referenced earlier. Staff did a review basically of just, high level updates from the state and from adjacent communities. So based on the information that we were able to obtain from the Michigan Regulatory Agency, communities should be expecting an estimated $28,000 per licensed establishment from the state. That was last month. And of course, things even were updated Friday after the agenda was published. And so the city has received $56,000 from the state treasury. And we are following up with the state with some clarification regarding that final amount. But so that is the first initial fee, and it should be noted that those dollars from the state are based on communities that have licensed retailers or micro businesses. The MRA, they post monthly updates just about how their process is going. It takes them typically 53 days for the MRA to process a provisioning center license, in case anyone's curious about that fact. And then we did a quick review of communities that are in the various stages of permitting. This is based on information talking to some of their staff and just looking at the permit and application websites for these communities. So, it does vary by community. I would say Hazel Park probably has the most number of different marijuana uses that are there. I should note that these are just the number of licenses that are allowed and listed available. Doesn't mean there's all of these facilities open at this time, but a lot of communities around us are looking at this as well and going through different stages, but you can kind of see the variety here. Most people focusing on or communities focusing on provisioning centers and retailers at this stage, and some of the safety and compliance facilities as well. So as I said, it is a short report and update based on things that were open, or at least in our community, the retailers that opened in May and June of last year. So you will see a motion in the packet that just generally requests the City Council accepts the marijuana report by city staff. And then we're expecting the 2 provisioning centers that are under construction to open by the May 11th deadline, or excuse me, get a certificate of occupancy by the May 11th deadline, so that they can get their final licensing from the state. And then the safety compliance facility in Wolcott, their deadline is November 23rd. I don't think it will take them that long to get open, but in case they need an extension, they can ask for extension just like the provisioning centers had in the past. And with that, I'm here for any questions.
All right. Are there any questions from council at this time?
Through the chair, I had one question on the 164 total calls to the police.
Thank you.
I'm just curious what those calls were like. It sounded like they didn't end up in a citation, but what were the calls about?
Through the chair, Kyle, could you promote Captain Spellman? I think he might be able to speak on the characterization of call.
Yep, just a moment. Captain, you're unmuted.
I would like to add on to that too. What time span are those calls? 2020, or did they start earlier than that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That report goes back all the way to January 1st, 2020. And what you're seeing there is a high number of call for service calls that are generated by the police officers. Though 95% of those runs are officer-generated checks, where they're just checking on the business and doing a welfare check. If you look at the report in detail, there's only been, in each of those facilities, the 3 that are open, less than 5 police reports within the last year since they've been open in May. And those are very minor reports, like a customer trouble or a parking or a vehicle accident in the parking lot. Typical incidents that would happen at any business. As a police department, we've been very impressed in the security from these establishments, the way that they work with their community to resolve community or neighborhood issues, and the way that they work with the police department when it comes to that. We've been very impressed with the way that they've worked with us in the community, so we've had no issues with them.
Thank you, Captain. Are there additional questions of council?
No questions, but I do have comments, but I'll wait till the point. We'll discuss comments.
Yep. I'm just going to say for our viewers that tonight is acceptance of the report. We are not talking or discussing or making a decision, debating on any other future uses of policy at this time tonight. This is just to accept the report. If you are interested in having a policy discussion with your council members, I encourage you to reach out to them independently. Because I know this is an ongoing conversation with lots of our owners, marijuana owners, business owners. So with that, seeing no questions from council.
I have.
Oh, sure.
It's not a question per se, but it's a suggestion for future reports. It would be interesting for in a future report or discussion on this if we had some data from other communities that have businesses operating in the categories that we do not, if we were able to get their information about police calls and compliance issues and that kind of thing, so that we have a feel for future considerations and other uses. Did that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Through the chair, we will work with the police department to pursue that data from the city cited in the report.
All right. With that, we need a motion to accept this report.
Sorry, I had to go ahead.
Okay. I move that we approve the 2021 marijuana report in accordance with the ordinance requirement of section 24-165C as submitted by the city manager's designee and the planning manager.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May and supported by Councilwoman James. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Yes.
Councilmember Polika.
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
Yes. And that concludes our regular agenda. Moving on to call to council. We do this in two parts. We start with the city manager and updates from the department directors. And so I'm going to hand it over to our city manager, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening we'll lead off with our DPW, Dan Antosik, to talk about some seasonal goings on of interest to the public. Dan?
Good evening tonight, Mayor and Council. So with the weather changing, many folks will be eager to get out in the yard, do a little bit of yard work, get prepped up for the spring and summer months. And this is just a reminder that curbside yard waste pickup will not return until the first full week of April. So please keep your yard waste bags at the back of the yard or something like that until it is time to set those out to the curb, please. Next, we are just a quick update on where we're at with the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. That process, everything has been moving forward as it should. We have recently signed off on the purchase order for everything. and notices have hit the mail for our general construction notice, in addition to those in the first grouping of streets that our work will commence on. Next, many people have probably seen crews out in their neighborhoods doing some tree trimming. That's some of our district trimming, in addition to the requests for service that we get for tree trimming. So, you know, maybe a branch isn't dead, but it's uncomfortably growing too close to the home or over the driveway, stuff like that. So we have been diligently working to get those removed over the course of the winter before we hit the spring season where our trees begin to bud. And then many folks, mostly on the west side so far, have seen our street sweepers up and down the streets, picking up that leftover debris from the fall, leftover from the winter. So we've been working to hit all the streets multiple times, picking up as much as we can at this time while we move through the whole city. So once we finish up on the west side, we will jump over to the east side of the city and then get back to our normal sweeping schedule of, you know, minimum once a month for the entire city. So at that, and then, you know, compost will come once we fully get in the spring. So with that, I am done for the night, Council. Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Dan, you mentioned that street sweeping has started, and every year I get residents rightfully upset or disappointed that street sweepers come through and they've been given no notice. Cars are still parked on the street. Is there a way we could establish a schedule for street sweeping? Maybe it's on the day after, you know, garbage day. So if your garbage day is Wednesday, then you would see your street swept on Thursday. So people know on Thursdays, maybe to keep the cars off the streets to allow for better street sweeping. Is that an opportunity that we could take on?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, Councilman Polka, glad you brought that up, because we did have a conversation about that this morning with our supervisors. We'd likely start on something where it's putting out signage as, you know, no parking, street sweeping, to get our residents kind of conditioned to what we have going on. That would not only be of much benefit to street sweeping, but also a learned behavior over the course of the spring, summer, and early fall to help prep us for leaf season, to where we can also do the same thing so we can get the most cars off the street as possible. So not only can we do a better job at street sweeping, but also an even better job when it comes to leaf removal. So that is something that we're taking a serious look at right now. And I would say that you will see a change in our normal operations from what has been done in past years.
I am thrilled to hear that. Thank you.
If there are no more questions, our next department is Emmanuel Johnson, here to give some updates for Parks Recreation.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a couple of quick updates from us. As we have talked about it previously, our youth soccer program is in place and we should have play beginning relatively soon. But now that that's all set, we are looking to start up our youth baseball program. To do so, though, we are putting out the call once again for volunteers to come aboard and be coaches for our different teams. Our coaches are a vital part of our youth sports programs, and in order to operate any of them, we do need the support from the community or anybody that wants to step up and help coach the teams. If anyone is interested, they can contact Lisa Bryant. Her email address is lbryant@ferndalemI.gov, or you can reach her at 248-544-6767, and her extension is 518. Aside from that, I also wanted to update Council and the public on the results of a survey that we conducted with relation to our planned movie nights which is in relation to an earlier adopted item tonight. We conducted a survey to determine what movies that we were going to be showing at each showing. And for the family showing, which will be the one that we do earlier in the day, we had 400 total responses, and with 168 of those responses, Trolls World Tour looks like it's going to be the movie that we play for that particular showing. And then the later showing, which is the one that we said we were gearing more toward the 13 plus crowd, we had a total of 525 responses. And with 205 votes, it looks like we'll be showing Anchorman, The Legend of Burgundy. So that'll be exciting, and we look forward to putting out more information about that as that approaches.
Thanks, you, Emmanuel. I had one question based off of something I came across my Facebook feed about Gravity Art Fair and Skate Contest. Is that still, is that back on?
Yeah, we are very much in the process of working with Reveal Productions to put that on. If Lorena's here, she could actually talk a little bit more about that. I believe she's still here. Or not.
Yes, I'm
She's
still
not
here.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to get back to unmute. Yep, so we are still planning to hold Gravity. The date is set for June 12th. And we're still partnering with Reveal Productions.
Okay. It's good to see that we're planning for events to come back after a year and a half. And I think June will be a safer month for all of us. I hope to be vaccinated by then. So, all right. Well, thank you for the update.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have Captain Spellman to give an update from the police department's perspective on behalf of Chief Emmy.
Thank you, Joe. On International Women's Day, the police department would just like to celebrate and acknowledge the advancements and achievements of our female employees. I'd like to recognize Sergeant Janessa Danielson, who's just recently been promoted to our Professional Standards Sergeant. As you may know, this is the position that the infamous and honored retired Sergeant Brown held. It's a very important position in our administration. And I'd also like to acknowledge Sergeant Zyrowski, who's our newest promoted sergeant to patrol. And then we also have some fan favorites that you'll be familiar with, and that's Officer Jill Maulmeister, who's our community engagement officer, and Allison Shank, who's our school resource officer. I'd just like to acknowledge their efforts and their value to our organization on this important day. And I'd like to also reach across departments to our new fire chief, Teresa Robinson, who has reached the top of her profession. And I think is a proud representation of what this day is all about. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Captain. I couldn't agree more. Next, actually, we have an update from said Chief Robinson on a critical life-saving award that was issued this past week. Give us one moment to promote, Chief.
Yeah, I'm looking, but I can't find her for some reason.
Okay. Well, we'll give her a minute, and I can certainly buy some time. So from the City Manager's office, I wanted to take the opportunity to update the public that City Council's annual budget workshop is scheduled for March 27th. It will be held in Council chambers with a cap on the amount of attendees, including council and staff support. So while it will be held in person in council chambers, there will be occupancy limitations aligned with the health protocols, just as there were for the strategic planning session we conducted back in the fall. And like that, we will post a public link so those who are able and interested can attend publicly via Zoom and participate as necessary. Additionally, I just wanted to acknowledge the work of our representatives in Washington, D.C. The American Recovery Act successfully passed through the House and Senate over the weekend. This is critically needed support on the revenue side for local and state governments. I very much look forward to hopefully a successful signature from President Biden on that legislation. We are in contact with the Michigan Municipal League, and I will be providing updates to City Council as we better understand the impacts that this legislation will have on us locally. With that, Chief Robinson, are you available?
I don't see her in the list, Joe.
Well, I'll buy time for one more second. So like Captain Spellman, I have the same acknowledgement to all of our female leaders throughout the organization. There's too many actually to name, so I would just like to acknowledge them. I acknowledge them on my other media accounts, but without the talent that is out there, we certainly wouldn't be the progressive, successful organization that we are. And with my all sincerity, I respect and appreciate all the contributions you put towards the organization. So thank you to all of our wonderful female leaders. Chief Robinson, did that buy you enough time?
I'm sorry, I don't know what the deal is.
That's okay. All right, we'll go on to Community and Economic Development Director Jordan Torty.
Thank you, Joe. Very quickly, just two items, opportunities for community engagement. Beginning next week, the final version of the Ferndale Moves plan, our mobility plan for Ferndale, will be available for public comment at ferndalemoves.com. And also, we are tracking for the March 22nd council meeting to have important items for consideration about the Ayton Woodward intervention project to help the folks there at the intersection with human services interventions, as well as partnering with Detroit on the physical improvements to the intersection. So we'll be bringing some items related to those physical improvements to council in terms of formalizing the agreement with the city of Detroit. So formalizing the partnership and getting into the nitty-gritty of allocating funding to the project. We've seen significant progress on the human services side, and so we had a community meeting recently on that. If you go to ferndalemi.gov and you click current projects, you'll see the Ayton Woodward project page. All of those details are there. And as soon as we have the items ready for the agenda for council, we'll be posting them there as well.
Thank you, sir.
The fire chief now.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Sorry about that. The link I was going through did not allow me in. But I am happy to say it's so good. I feel like this last week has been such a symbolic representation of the fire service with highs and lows. On Thursday, we had the honor of presenting an award to a pit bull in our community and dubbing him honorary fire dog for Ferndale Fire Department. And his actions, and this is where we underestimate our fur babies, is he saved his family from a potentially very dangerous situation from a block dryer event. And because of his actions, emergency was avoided. So it was so much fun for us to go out there. When I heard about it, I just could not pass on the opportunity to recognize this dog in this event, because we all need more of this happy news and recognize the good things that happen in our community. So it was a true honor for me to go out and recognize this dog. And he was very happy with his fire truck chew toy he got, his dog tag. So that was very fun. I do want to, on the other side where I said it was highs and lows, where Thursday was a very happy day. Friday, I do want to take a moment to recognize the firefighter that was lost from our neighboring fire department, and we had his funeral on Friday. So a small recognition of the captain from Madison Heights Fire Department who did pass line of duty last Monday. So there was a representation of the highs and lows, but amazing people, and you see the community step up and come together. So Ferndale's amazing, and seeing all the comments, recognizing Kona's actions, and also all the support with their events on Friday just goes to show how amazing this community is, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And you will see a lot more of the fire department being visible and engaged with the community, and I'm very excited for what we'll have in store with 2021.
Thank you, Chief, for your perspective. That's important. Finally, I think last we have the DDA Director, Lena Stevens, to close us out.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm going to assume that's a yes. Okay, so just wanted to briefly give an update about social districts. I don't know if your inbox looks anything like mine. You may have gotten a lot of questions about where things stand. The Michigan Liquor Control Commission was extremely quick and responsive in approving our social district application. They had a few quick questions, a few modifications that we made to the map, just how the legend worked, and boom, that was done. So what we're doing is we're working on a local user agreement. It's in development, and the DDA Board of Directors is going to take a look at that on Thursday, and we should be going live with it very, very soon after. The idea being we just want a chance to touch base with participants who are interested, explain what we're looking for, explain that we're looking for a partnership with our participants, and then hold their hand as we go to the MLCC for their individual permits. So I know there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of interest, but right now we're still very much in the planning phase. So just want to make sure that nobody believes they've missed the boat. There's no email that they missed or announcement that they missed. That stuff is all in development. We're working on that. So wanted to give you that information. And then let you know that we should be going live with our restaurant relief grant either towards the end of this week or the beginning of next. That was with the funding that was generously donated by Oakland County for the restaurant relief phase 2 interlocal agreement that was approved in the last meeting. They will be $2,000 grants to 24 restaurants, bars, and cafes for either past improvements to their patios or future improvements that they'd like to undertake. Again, the DDA Board of Directors will be reviewing that application on Thursday. It will be a live application for 1 week, and selection will be random. So we want to make sure applicants know there's no need to be at their computer at 7 a.m., making sure they're first in line for it. It'll be open for a nice long time for anybody who wants to apply, and selection will be completely random. So not completely random, they will have to be deemed eligible, but after that it will be random selection. So I just wanted to let you know, because I think that's going to be a really nice little pick-me-up for those businesses who receive that grant. And that's it.
Thank you, Lena. Through the chair, that is our report to you.
Thank you so much. Great reports tonight. A lot going on, and wonderful supports for our community. All right, so we're moving on to call to council for the rest of council. And I never write down who I started with at the last meeting, so I'm going to start with Councilwoman Mikulski.
I have nothing additional tonight.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Polka.
A couple things. I too want to recognize my female colleagues on council on International Women's Day, as well as all the wonderful women working on staff. You are incredible, incredible people. I love working with you, and I think you're a credit to your race. And the second thing I wanted to let you know is Wanda Korgel, who is a friend and neighbor, has been on the Parks and Recreation Commission since its re-inception back in 2014 for the past 7 years. She this week has stepped down from the Parks and Rec Commission for some personal reasons, but I just wanted to acknowledge her contribution to the Parks and Rec Commission over the past 7 years, and just say thank you publicly for everything that she's done. So that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, let's go on to Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
All right. I just wanted to, congratulate Officer Jeffrey Pierce. I also wanted to acknowledge the great group of female leaders that I have the pleasure of serving with, working with at the city level, meeting in our community, I just want you to know I think you're a bunch of lady bosses, and I love seeing you. And let's keep the momentum going here. We have a lot to contribute, and we do. Also, I'd like to say that I look forward to seeing my council members at the Michigan Municipal League next week. And it's always a time where we can kind of find out what's going on in other communities and perhaps bring some ideas back to our own and learn from others. So I look forward to that. But other than that, I have nothing else to say tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman James.
Given how early we're wrapping up, I wish I had more to report, but I've racked my mind and I really don't. There's a SEMCOG General Assembly coming up between now and the next meeting. So if there's something interesting to share from that, I certainly will. Other than that, have a good evening.
Thank you. I have a couple things too. First, I wanted to just mention on vaccines again. I'm still getting questions whether or not the mayor or council are going to host a vaccine distribution event in City Hall or schedule those. And we are not able to do that in Oakland County, and the vaccine distribution is coming down from the county to the hospitals and through the local pharmacies. And so I have tried to see where we could possibly do pop-up vaccine distributions with the county and how can we be a conduit. But at this time, the vaccine distribution is still being flowed through Oakland County. So I really appreciate everybody's constant questions. I know everyone's eager to get them and get scheduled and get in line. But I'm optimistic and hopeful that more will come online in the next few months, and that will be the number of people will be increasing with vaccines, and the number of people with COVID will continue to decrease, and we'll be in a happier place and getting back to a new sense of normal in the summertime. With that, I also wanted to say Happy International Women's Day and honoring all my council colleagues, and I'm always amazed by your insights and talents, and seeing new opportunities in our community for our residents and businesses, and I'm just thankful that I get to serve with all of you. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the National League of Cities. While we talked about, Mayor Pro Tem mentioned the MML conference next week. I am in the National League of Cities conference this week, which is their Congressional City Conference. And I love going because it gives me a sense of where federal policy is heading. And boy, is there a churn in different direction this year than last year. But that's typically after any presidential election and a new administration takes place. Where my sweet spot is with the NLC is the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I have been on it for 3 years, banging my head for the last 3, but very hopeful for the one going forward. And as well as leaders across the country, as well as Congress, House, and Senate, they all seem very hopeful that a Senate bill will actually modernize our transportation and move away from highway construction and starving transit to equalizing that approach, so that communities are more equitable in how we connect people to work and jobs and around their areas where they live, and not just funding highway expansion. So it's a huge difference of what's coming, major policy shift, and that has a lot to do with the reduction in gas tax, and that model of paying for road expansion is no longer one that is going to work. So, and I'm very excited that I got to pitch the Woodward Street Diet to Secretary Pete today, as he's called, and talk about the opportunities if we had more federal funding. As part of the federal policy changes is a new surface transportation, sort of like block grant, that is going to be transit, sidewalks, pedestrian, biking, rail, all through this transportation block grant. And what's different that they're proposing, that we're advocating for, is that there's less restrictions, removal of restrictions on how locals spend that money. We know best how to manage our streets. We've been doing it forever. So don't put all that red tape in place for small communities, particularly those under 25,000, which we are, is a different process for the cities that are larger, but the whole goal is to make it less restrictive, get the money to the cities. We know how to use it best to serve our communities. And so that's what's really going on at the federal level. Big impact at the local level if it passes. So with that, stay tuned, and I look forward to championing Ferndale to anybody who will listen to me. So with that, I really appreciate everybody's participation tonight, and it's 8:50, and we're done and done. So take care and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye, everybody. See you soon.
Good night, everyone.
Enjoy the weather.